and bare skin also takes quite a bit of damage from the sun too. Humans are also pretty limited when it comes to the power stat. Physically, they're the weakest of the great apes, and don't really have any good options for dealing damage. They lack the classic high damage bite attack that nearly every other non-herbivorous build relies on. Instead have...
Hello guys, Happy New Year. So today we have a reaction video, Inception style. I'll be reacting to someone reacts to a video, So today's video is Are Humans OP? And I actually just discovered this channel, both the channel she's reacting to and her channel, and I'm obsessed with both. I've seen multiple videos already from both of them. So you might see some more reactions relating to random animal facts or some of the things I see that she reacts to are things that I also have interest in. So I might just watch I've seen most of them already, so I might just watch some of them for my own entertainment. Some of them I might do like a fresh reaction, and some of them it just be like a review. Like this one, I've seen this video at least 10 times. So I just want to watch the video along with you guys because I thought it was pretty interesting, pretty cool. Yeah, humans are OP, spoiler alert. So let's get right into the video. Okay guys, ready?
Hey, already started.
That's one thing I really appreciate that. Thank you. The name of our channel is No Protocol. I'll put the link in the description. But she just goes straight into the video, no long intro, none of that, and I really appreciate that. And I know some of you are thinking like, wait, she's going straight into the video. Why aren't you? I'm like, guys, relax. Let me mansplain something to her real quick. You might say she's giving the people what they want and going straight into the video, but I say, no. You got to like give a prolonged intro about things that are not related to the video the viewers came to see. That's how it's done on YouTube. She's relatively new. She doesn't know that, but I do appreciate it.
That was personal.
Human beings. Are they as overpowered as the game's community would lead you to believe?
Yes.
Short answer, yeah. They're the most meta-defining build of all time, and the undisputed top build in the current expansion. But believe it or not, this wasn't always the case. Humans used to get bodied left and right on a daily basis by other players. And it took a pretty long time before the player base learned how to actually make use of the human build's unique abilities. The story of the humans' rise to dominance is a really
It's that
interesting
woolly
one.
mammoth.
And so today, we're going to do an in-depth look at the humans' abilities, their strengths, and their weaknesses. Because yes, they do have weaknesses.
Many.
We'll also go over notable matchups, and finally look at the steps human players took in order to reach their dominant status. First, their unique abilities. I touched on this topic in my video about primates, but I'll recap here and also go into more detail. First off the bat, we have their ability to throw things. Other builds can throw things, but humans can do so harder, faster, and further than anyone else.
I didn't know that.
The reason for this is their body structure. Bipedal builds are tough to balance, both in the game development sense and the center of mass sense. Throwing an item with any real force behind it requires serious balance.
I hadn't considered that humans can throw further than any other animal, but now that I think about it, that does make sense. And I suppose that's going to be followed up by some primates? I know that chimps throw when they're feeling antagonistic. Usually it's feces. As far as a list of animals I don't trust, it goes dolphins, chimps, honey badgers. It's in that order, yeah.
Achieved only by having shorter...
I can't tell you how many times I've seen this video and it's funny to me every time. The fact that she has a list of animals she doesn't trust, that's
arms and longer legs. This is why humans can launch projectiles at deadly speeds, whereas other primates kind of just lob things without putting much effort into it.
That was a good throw.
If they tried to, they would knock themselves over. Even if chimpanzees could figure out how to craft a spear, there's no way they could throw it hard enough to deal any significant damage.
Good to know.
Next, their stamina regeneration. Humans can chase down anything. You try to run from a human, you might outspeed them initially, but you'll run out of stamina much sooner than they will, and they'll catch up to you while you're in your weakened state. This is partially because of their superior balance again.
I was actually just speaking about that with someone, And to preface, he's a very athletic person. He was explaining to me that he doesn't have stamina to run long distances. And I countered with, as a human, you do have that stamina, or you could. You might just not have the mental strength. Because running, after a certain point, it just gets really uncomfortable, and your body might tell you to stop. So some people stop at that point. And other people, they can listen to that voice, and they dig down, and they continue running anyway. So I think it's more of a question of mentality, not of capability. Usually. There are also people who, of course, are physically unable to run. But that's why when you're being chased or you're running for your life, you can go a lot further and sometimes faster than you think you could have before. So maybe I was just saying that in a roundabout, very nice way. But what I really meant to tell him was, you're just weak! I'm kidding.
But most
Okay, I actually disagree with her on that point. You cannot run forever. It doesn't matter how strong your mental capability is. You might run for longer, but the body has only so much calories to burn, and eventually you will run out. That's why when people like people who like in the Olympics or whatever, they pace themselves. If you have a long distance to run, you just don't come at the gates on like full steam. You have to like pace yourself so you have enough energy to go around. Humans can run for much longer, but that's because okay, you're running, and then when you start getting tired, you kind of like slow down into a jog, maybe a little walk, and then you pick up your pace. That's if no one is chasing you and you're not chasing anything. But if someone was chasing you, you will run for longer because of adrenaline and whatnot. But you won't run forever. Eventually, you do have to like stop. Classic horror movie trope. This stumble. But yeah, you can't run forever, no matter how mentally tough you are. You might be able to push yourself longer, but when you do stop, you find yourself like panting, like your heart beating like it's gonna like erupt out of your chest. But you've reached your limit. Everybody that does have a limit. It varies depending on how athletic you are, but some people run faster but for shorter distances. Some people run slower but for longer distances. But you can't burn energy you don't have.
Mostly,
I'm
it's
kidding.
because of the human build's unique
just
choice to
kidding.
not spec into fur. This gives them access to the extremely broken ability Sweat. Every other current build that's decent at distance running recharges stamina by using the move Pant. This works great, but it does require the user to stop running. Sweat, on the other hand, works better while moving, massively extending the distance a human player can run. They've got a few other important abilities that are essential to their kit, but aren't unique to humans. Their ability to speak is unique among mammals, but some birds can pull it off too. In humans, the ability to speak allows them to use
African
one of their
greys,
signature moves, Teach,
parrots.
which drastically boosts skill point gain, mitigating the main penalty a player receives upon getting a game over. Humans and birds also share another unique trait, which is being able to stand upright. Standing upright is extremely useful for dealing with stealth builds that might normally be using tall grass to hide. Tool use also might be thought of as a human-exclusive move, and it certainly is the most effective in humans, but it turns out a pretty wide array of other builds can also do it. Birds, primates, cephalopods, and even fish can use tools on occasion, but sweating and throwing, uniquely human. Now onto their weaknesses.
I don't think that sweating is uniquely human. I'm pretty positive that horses also sweat on humid days, but then if you've ever been horseback riding, you take off the saddle, its back is sweaty. Pretty positive.
And yes, it's true that currently most human players can
Horse
subvert
people,
these with
weigh
their
in.
crafting skill. But it's important to recognize that without equipment, the human build isn't necessarily unstoppable. The decision to not have fur granted humans a massive buff to mobility at the cost of stealth. In the mammal faction, fur is a prerequisite to all of the major stealth abilities like camouflage, and lack of stealth abilities means getting in close on their targets is a serious challenge. The human build's lack of fur also means they have very low defense, both from physical attacks and from environmental effects. Bear skin offers almost zero armor, to the point where even
Whoa.
players from lower weight classes have no trouble dealing damage to humans. And bear skin also takes quite a bit of damage from the sun, too. Humans are also pretty limited when it comes to the power stat. Physically, they're the weakest of the great apes, and don't really have any good options for dealing damage. They lack the classic high damage bite attack that nearly every other non-herbivorous build relies on,
That's
instead
sad.
having to resort to blunt attacks like punch
Look
and
at
kick,
Khabib.
which we all know aren't very effective against builds that have thick fur or skin. The last major weakness I can see is that they're pretty bad at dealing with stealth. The lack of night vision means darkness can really hamper their ability to locate targets,
Yeah,
and their lack of a
little
strong
bit
sense of smell means camouflage is especially useful against them.
Ooh.
Okay, now let's talk about matchups. Obviously, a key feature of the human build is being able to craft equipment. Given basic equipment like low-level armor and hunting gear, the human's best matchup is going to be medium-large mammals.
Looks like a javelin
Unlike blunt
throw.
damage, piercing damage is quite effective versus builds with thick hide, but on defense they're actually pretty awful. A human's only option on defense against a large mammal is intimidation, unless they've got some crazy high-level equipment, but I'll make a video on power creep later. The classic human equipment cannot stop a charging tank main unless the intimidate attempt works. But overall, this matchup is one of the reasons humans became top tier. Hardly any builds have favorable matchups against tanks. But that's not to say humans don't have their counters though. As I said before, stealth can be really effective against them due to their lack of a keen sense of smell and night vision. Humans have the ability to win pretty much any fight as long as they've got time to prepare. But taken by surprise, humans have a lot fewer options.
Oh no, forget
Another
it.
thing humans have trouble dealing with is flight. Even when a human has a ranged weapon, players with high aerial mobility are pretty safe during flight. Now, as far as I know, there aren't any bird builds powerful enough to one-shot humans, which is important because blunt attacks like punches are actually quite
I don't think
effective
so.
against birds. Birds have hollow bones that are resistant to tension and torsion, but not compression. This is the opposite of mammal bones, which are resistant to compression and tension, but not torsion. The point is, birds aren't the best choice against humans, but flight has been unlocked by 4 different classes in the game. Birds, which we just discussed, aren't a good choice. Bats, which do even less damage than birds. Reptiles, which unfortunately had their aerial
Yeah, I
builds
don't
banned in patch 1.3.1. And insects. Flying eusocial insects have by far the best matchup versus humans in the entire game. Humans have
Sorry, I missed that part.
zero, but not compression in the game. Birds, which we just discussed, aren't a good choice. Bats, which do even less damage than birds.
This part.
Reptiles, which unfortunately had their aerial builds banned in patch 1.3.1.
Dinosaur
And
extinction.
insects.
Mars.
Flying eusocial insects have by far the best matchup versus humans in the entire game. Humans have 0 counterplay against a swarm of stinging insects. I mean, sure, there are special items that they can use to combat swarms if they're prepared, but the amount of human mains who've chosen that as one of their prestige abilities is pretty small. Humans' lack of fur means they have no innate defense against stings. Stings also have the chance to proc the Amphylaxis debuff, which can actually lead to a game over. And it's for this reason that the high score for human eliminations belongs to the Africanized honeybee, known better by its community-given name, the killer bee.
I think that, if not all, some honeybees die after stinging, so that is mutually assured destruction.
And even if the stings don't proc the allergic reaction effect, they will still definitely achieve their primary goal of dropping their resolve to 0 and granting you control over the territory. And we can see that lately the viability of killer bees has only been growing now that they've expanded their territory outside of Africa. Which brings me to my main point. Are humans overpowered? Well, just like the Africanized honeybee, humans really only became OP once they escaped the African server and invaded other areas. Notice how humans took down Megafauna across every terrestrial server except Africa. The African tank mains have the matchup experience and counterplay options to deal with the vast array of skills humans have access to. But the rest of the community was totally unprepared to deal with the rapid invasion of new human mains invading their competitive scene. In other words, the devs could have prevented the massive destabilization of the current meta if they'd region-locked humans. Staying competitive in the meta requires a good player constantly be leveling up their skills. There's no better example of this than the rapid rise to dominance that humans experienced. If you'd like to level up your own skills
Okay,
and
that
unlock
was
new
fun.
ones,
This was a subscriber request from a channel called Tierzoo. I hadn't heard of them before. First time watching, but I
Yeah, so TSO is the name of the channel. Link will also be in the description. Really fun stuff they have over there. If you guys want to watch like the original video, I'll put it also in the description also. But I really like this channel, and like especially like the way she does the reaction, she goes straight to the point. You guys ain't gonna get that here. Don't ask me to go straight to the point. It's not happening. Well, if you want some watch a reaction or someone going straight to the point, I would recommend that after you watch this one, then you go watch her video to just some support. But yeah, watch this one first. Like and subscribe. I'll probably play the last part, but she also has like literary recommendations, like books she recommends based off of the video she reacted to, which is interesting. Like she like reads for fun. But respect. Let me play it to the part where she gives the
I like this.
recommendation.
I need to learn more about random animals because I don't know a lot about animals that don't directly relate to something I'm interested in, if that makes sense. So I could definitely stand to learn more. Also, the POV of this video was fun. I'm a human learning about humans, while somehow I felt detached from my own humanity as I was taking in those facts. And there's a big gamification element there that I thought was fun. Anyhow, for a literary recommendation,
Talk to her.
there's only one book that comes to my mind, and it's controversial. It's called Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind. And despite it being wildly popular, many scientists have come out to say that parts of the book were very erroneous. So that's a bit of a disclaimer. But I already knew that when I picked up the book, and I read it more as fiction than nonfiction. And I still found it to be a very good read. But then I was also reading supplementary articles and researching the counterclaims while I was reading. But that could be interesting if you're into that. It gets into both biology and humanity from evolution to current day. And then it tries to answer the question of why we are the way that we are now. And I would say that the message doesn't change, despite the details on that one. So I'll try to find it, and I'll link it in the bio for you. Other than that, let me know what you thought about this video. If you
Yeah. Okay, guys. So that was No Protocol reacting to Tearzo. I do recommend both channels. Teo approves. Welcome to the Avatar State. Like and subscribe. Don't forget to share the video to everybody else. Thank you. Bye. Deuces.